that will help you close your deals? Well, in today's video, I will show you exactly how you can use motivation to close your deals. But before I do that, I'd like to take a little bit of time to explain why getting the motivation is very important, and two, how you can truly extract the true motivation behind on why the seller is selling their house. Okay, so let's quickly go over why is motivation important. Well, if someone's motivated, meaning they have a reason why they're selling the property, whether that's paying medical bills, maybe someone had just passed, maybe it was an inherited property and now they have to pay taxes and bills, utilities, whatever it may be. Maybe because it's a tired landlord, right? If there is a motivation, then there's a possibility that we can actually get the deal in a deep discount. Okay. Because at the end of the day, we are deal finders, not deal manufacturers. So having that motivation is very, very important. I mean, just think about it. If you're selling your house, and let's say it's a distressed property, but it's not costing you any money, and even if it was, it doesn't change your way of living in any way, shape, or form. Wouldn't you just sit on that property and wait till it gets fat and juicy, and then on the right market, sell it at a higher value? You probably would, right? But what if you need the money? What if you lost your job or you need to move closer to your family? Whatever it may be. Then at that point, you might actually value speed and convenience more than the maximum value for the property, right? It only makes sense. So if your seller has motivation, then they're more open-minded to listen and to listen to you on why you need to be where you need to be. And they're more willing to really come down on price to be able to get that cash quickly. Okay. So it is very important to have the true motivation, because if you don't, it will be very difficult to have a deal in your hand. Okay. Second thing I want to talk about is, how do we know what the true motivation is and how can we get it out of the seller? Okay. So let's say I'm talking to a seller and I ask, Mr. Seller, why are you looking to sell your property? And let's say it's a tired landlord, right? And Mr. Seller says, Caesar, I've been a landlord for 30 years. I'm 77 years old. I am just tired of tenants and toilets. And this property, the tenant just left, and I was about to fix it myself so that I can get it rent ready. But now I don't want to. I'm just too tired. Now, that is what I call the first layer of motivation. And even myself, when I was new, and even sometimes today, I do it as well. I go, oh, that's motivation. He's tired of tenants and toilets. I'm writing it down on a piece of paper, and that's it. And I'm done, right? And then I go into the condition of the property. Well, that's where I'm saying that's where you're lacking a little bit. And like I said, I'm guilty of it as well, but I don't do it as often, okay? Because I want to make sure that I'm always thinking about this. So if someone's tired, you want to ask multiple layer questions and really dig deep on why they're tired, right? So something like that, like, whoa, Mr. Seller, you've been doing this for 30 years. I want to be exactly where you are right now. Okay. By the way, just curious, what are some of the crazy stories you've had, from one tenant to another? And then let them tell you that story. Okay. Okay, great. So you said you're tired of tenants and toilets. Can you explain to me, what's tiring about it? What don't you want to do anymore? Right. And so you want to get those words out of their mouth, because now they're painting a picture, not only in your head, but in their head, right, of what they're tired of. Okay. And this is when I actually take the time, and perhaps I'll even stop comping for a little bit, and I would actually take notes, because this is very, very important. So once you ask the second, third, fourth layer, then that's when you have the true motivation on why they're selling. Okay. So it's tired landlord, first layer. Just curious, can you tell me a little bit, any crazy stories you had from one tenant to another? Right? That's the second layer. What is it about tenants and toilets that you're tired of? That's a third layer. Fourth layer is, hey, Mr. Seller, I know you mentioned you're tired of tenants and toilets, and you don't want to deal about, fixing anymore, and you just want to cash in on your deals. So let me ask you, what happens if you don't sell this property in the next 3 months, 6 months, or a year? Right? And then you want to get that out of them. It's very important to get that out of them because once again, you're making them live in that possibility. And they will tell you whether they like that possibility or not. Great, Mr. Seller. So hopefully I can be an easy button for you. And so if I can take care of the tenants and toilets, get it out of your plate, is that something that would be valuable for you or beneficial for you? Great. Okay. Wonderful. Now you mentioned earlier that your tenant left, so now you are about to fix it. So what are some of the things that you are thinking of fixing? Boom. Now I've transitioned from motivation to conditions. But I asked 3 or 4 questions behind I'm just tired of tenants and toilets, right? So ask those multi-layer questions to get the true definition of their motivation. And then from there, now this is the fun part. How do you use that motivation to close the deal? Okay. Well, one of the things that I like to do is, let's say, they're at 200,000 and I need to be at 120. We all know the first question that you ask um, towards the end, during the close is, if I can close on this in the next 30 days, pay you cash, buy it as is, I pay all the closing costs, no realtor fees, what's the best price that you can do for me? Okay, that question, even if you screw up the call, if you ask that question, you usually get about anywhere from 5 to 20% off from the first number that they give you, right? So if he says he wanted 200,000, they'll say, okay, well, if you can do this quick, you pay all the closing costs, I'll let it go for 185. Okay, so that's great. So now you're between 185 and 120. You are no longer splitting between 120 and 200. Okay, so from there, you do the education. Well, Mr. Seller, here's how I'm looking at it. I see the comps in the area. You told me that it would cost me this much to rehab, blah, blah, blah. I need this to be at, in the low 100s. Okay. Well, seller says, well, no, I can't do that. That's just way too low. Or what do you mean by low 100s? I probably need this to be like in the 110, 1 teens. You know what I mean? And they say, no, that's way too low. There's no way I can do that. Okay, so here it is. This is the question on how you can use motivation to close your deal. Okay, so I go, Mr. Seller, I understand if 115 is too low for you and 185 is simply way too high for me. What's a number in between, okay, that will put a smile on your face and blank? This is a very important question. And I say blank because that's where you want to put their motivation, right? So what's a number in between, Mr. Seller, so that I can get rid of so you don't have to think about tenants and toilets anymore, right? If I use that line, that's, once again, that's the first layer, right? Now, what if you found out in the third or fourth layer that he's old, maybe he's got COPD and really can't fix houses like the way he used to, right? So at that point, you go, hey, what's a number in between 115 and 185 that you'd be okay with, so you don't have to fix those houses anymore? I mean, you mentioned earlier that it's really tough on you. You don't have the time. You don't have really the energy to do that, right? So what's a good number for you? So that way you don't have to worry about it. Let me take that off your plate. And that's a far more powerful question to ask a seller when you use their own words and their own motivation. Okay. And at that point, you just shut your mouth. Doesn't matter whether it's a 30-second silence, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Give them time to process that question. Most importantly, give them time to picture it in their head, because that's exactly what they're doing, right? More often than not, we want to keep talking, but that is the moment of truth where you just want to shut up and let them think, okay? Because they're going to think, oh man, yeah, I want 185, but I really don't want tenants and toilets anymore. I don't want to fix that sink. I noticed the floor was lopsided. It was, it wasn't leveled. Oh man, yeah, the roof is 10 years old. I'm going to have to fix that. Those are the things that's going through their mind. And now Mr. Seller goes, man, if you can buy this as is, get it out of my hands, I'm okay with 150. Okay, so then now you're splitting 115 and 150, no longer 115 and 200. Okay, guys. So it's really important, once again, to know what the motivation is, to ask multiple layered questions so that you can get the true definition or the real reason why they're selling the property. And then lastly is, Mr. Seller, if my number is too low for you and your number's way too high for me, what's a number in between that will put a smile on your face and blank? That is where you pretty much say that will help solve your solution, right? And so you should be able to use their words, not your words. And if you do that, more often than not, if the motivation is there, they will always drop the price. If the motivation is not there, doesn't matter how many times you use that line, they're not going to move off their price. Okay. So why is it important? How to properly get it with multiple layered questions. And lastly, if my number is too low for you, your number is way too high for me, what's the number in between that will put a smile on your face and blank, fill in the blank. All right, hope that helps. And let me know, drop some feedback in the comments below. If you found value to this, smash that like button. But what I'd really like to see is that if you use this line, come back to this video, drop a comment, let me know how it worked, if you were able to close a deal, and if you were to get the discount that you wanted or needed to make it a good deal for you. All right, till next time.